Hello, I'm Jordan. I'm going to do a tag today. I was tagged by Tom over at Tom LA Books, and this is the Mookse and the Gripes Bucket List Book Tag. It's kind of a mouthful. It is apparently inspired by a podcast, which I have not watched, but I certainly intend to now. It was created by Shawn the Book Maniac. It's a great channel. I highly recommend you subscribe if for some reason you're not already, and of course, definitely subscribe to Tom's channel too. So I guess the idea is simply to talk about 10 books that are on your bucket list, books that you intend to get to at some point in your life, not necessarily soon, but at some point. It's a great idea for a tag, so I'll jump right in. The first book I'm going to talk about is in honor of Tom, who tagged me, The Divine Comedy by Dante. I have read the Divine Comedy. I read the Chiardi translation, and I didn't particularly care for it. And I'm pretty sure it's on my end. It's not like Paradise Lost, for example, which I'm pretty confident is not a very good poem. I think that the Divine Comedy certainly must be a great poem. I think the translation I read was not great. The Chiardi translation just struck me as very, just not very poetic. I'm a bit old-fashioned when it comes to my taste in poetry. I like it to be very flowery and formal. My two favorite poets are Tennyson and Yeats, to give you some idea. It's the same reason I didn't like the Fagle's translation of the Odyssey. I kept thinking to myself, okay, well, why not just write a prose translation since you clearly have no interest in writing poetry? That was maybe I just don't have a subtle enough ear for it, but it didn't do much for me, the Fagle's translation. And the translation I read of the comedy didn't do much for me either. But in that case, I'm pretty sure if I had the right translation, I would connect with it a little more. So if anyone has an idea of what they think is the best one, let me know. I've heard the Mandelbaum one is great. I'm leaning towards that one, but yeah, let me know. The next one is actually a series of books, technically, but I'm going to go with it anyway, and that's In Search of Lost Time, or Remembrance of Things Past by Proust. This is a book that I have been actively planning on reading since at least high school, and I just have not yet gotten to it, partly because this is the only edition I have of any of the books. This is Swansway, translated by, who translated this? Lydia Davis. But she didn't do the entire work. What Penguin did here, as I understand it, is they got a different translator for each book in the series, which doesn't appeal to me. So I think when I do read it, I'm going to get a translation that was all done by a single translator. That seems to be the better approach to me. Maybe I'll come back to this series when I've read the actual thing in full. But yeah, that's part of what's been holding me back. But also, it's just a massive undertaking. And I'm not entirely convinced that Proust is going to do it for me, but we'll see. I'll certainly try it at some point. And another thing is, once I start it, I will force myself to finish it. And that's on me, but it's just something I do. So that's also been holding me back a bit. The next is the Quran. I am currently working my way through the King James Bible. I'm almost done with the New Testament, and I imagine I'll get to the Quran shortly after that. I'm a little hesitant because the Quran is supposedly just, in the original, absolutely gorgeous. It's so gorgeous that its beauty is often used as proof of its truth, which I think is a wonderful idea, so I want a translation that really does it justice. This is translated by John Meadows Rodwell. I don't know, I just found it in a used bookstore years ago. So if anyone has an idea of a better translation than this, let me know. But this is what I'm going to go with for now. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be getting to that as soon as I'm done with the Bible. The next is, I don't have a copy of it, it's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Gibbon, which is, I think, also a series, but I'm going to count it as one book. I've recently gotten into reading nonfiction, and what I've discovered also is that I really wanted to explore the classics of nonfiction. It has classics just like any other genre, and certainly The Decline and Fall is one of those classics. I kind of want to read Herodotus and Livy before that, but not necessarily. But again, it's just such a massive undertaking, and I'm worried that, since I will force myself to finish it once I've started it, it's just going to be immensely boring and dry. I don't think that's true from what I've heard, but it is. I'm a little hesitant to dive into that. I suppose I could take it in bits and pieces. I have a hard time doing that too. Next is 2666 by Bolaño. This is a book that, of course, I'm sure most of you have heard of or read. I'm kind of the phase in my life where I was really interested in reading sprawling, mammoth, postmodern epics has kind of come and gone. So I feel like I may have missed the boat on this one. I certainly intend on reading it someday. It's not something that I ever feel myself inclined to try anymore. And I'm sure someday that'll change. But right now, I'm not really interested in anything this contemporary for the most part. But I'm going to keep it, and I am going to read it someday. Next is the Brontes by Julia Barker. This is a massive biography, I guess, of the Bronte siblings. And the Brontes are some of my favorite writers. Well, Charlotte and Emily are. I don't care for Anne, personally. But I'm sure that her life will be fascinating, the same as her sisters. So this I'm really excited to get into. I was just flipping through it before I started this. For the first time, I ordered this months ago, and I haven't really looked at it. And I saw there's a doodle in here created by Emily Bronte, the writer of probably my favorite novel ever. So that's just exciting on its own. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. And finally, not finally, but coming up to near the end here, we have the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu religious text, which apparently is the most famous religious text in Hinduism. I had only heard about it for the first time from Noah over at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse, who was immensely knowledgeable when it comes to Eastern religious thought, particularly Buddhism. And I think he called it one of his favorite books, if not his favorite book. So that's certainly something I want to check out. As I understand it, it's only a section of a much larger work, so I'm not sure if I should read that larger work or not. If anyone has any thoughts on that, let me know. And then we're going to go on to Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This is a book that I really should have gotten to a long time ago. I feel like it's a huge gap in my reading life. It's something I want to get to soon. I'll probably get to this within the next year or so. The problem is this edition. As beautiful as that cover is, and it is, look at the size of this thing. Like it's bigger than my head. I don't know how I'm going to read this. I'd much rather have that famous mass market paperback. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to read it in this, but it is nice to have. It's quite lovely. And then we're going on to Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's Polish. It's the famous Polish science fiction novel, which, as I understand it, is notoriously ill-translated into English often. Apparently there's a much better English translation available now, only on ebook though. So I've been meaning to get that for some time, so looking forward to that one too. And finally there's Kristen Lavrenstatter, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, by Sigrid Undset, which I believe is a Norwegian historical fiction epic. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It's just another one of those absolutely famous books that I feel compelled to read at some point. I have a list on my phone of various genres and the books in that genre that I need to get to, and that one has been on my historical fiction list forever. It's at the top of the list. So yeah, that was the Mookse and the Gripes bucket list book tag. It's a great idea for a tag. I don't think I'm going to tag anyone in particular, but if you're watching this and it sounds interesting, please feel free to do it. I'd love to hear your answers. And let me know what you think of mine. And thanks for watching. Have a good day.